Okay, well, since we got this, okay, I've got 6 o'clock, so we'll get things started. I'm sure some people will join as the 3 presentations go on, but this is our first official virtual open house, and we'll be adding more of these as we go along through the year to add to introduce people on a new product that Tri-State and the Plus 60 will be promoting throughout the year and into 2022. To introduce, we have 3 presentations today. At the end of each presentation, we will open it up for any questions that you have at the end. To introduce our 3 presenters, the first one will be Jack Weidman from Tri-State Travel, and he will be talking about our New England Coach and Trains and 400th anniversary trip of the Mayflower II. We have 2 specific dates for that, departing. That is a very popular trip. The first date is September 24th through October 3rd, or October 1st through the 10th. Our second presentation will be done by our dear friend Mark Miller from Carry On Tours. He will be talking about Chattanooga's Hidden Gems of the South. Some people may have been signed up for this. We did have to reschedule this, so that'll be departing this year on September 19th through the 24th. And then in a little while, Susan's not on the call right now, but Susan Hatcher will be talking about the many faces of Louisiana, which will be departing October 17th to the 24th. So if you are listening, we do ask that you keep your screen on mute. At the bottom, you can see where you can, there's a chat button. If you click that and you want to ask any questions, and then we'll hold off for any questions that you send us after every presentation. So without further ado, Jack, if you want to get started with the first presentation, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Andy. It's a delight to be here, and welcome. We're going to be talking about New England Coach and Trains 400th anniversary of the Mayflower Tour. Andy mentioned the dates on the program. What we're doing on this one, it's a little unique. For the first-time traveler who has not been to New England before, this is geared toward them, and also the repeat customer who has been to New England but hasn't seen all the variances that are available. So this is kind of a well-rounded trip we're offering for the customer. We're going to be, this is, just a second, little technicality there. We're going to be going by motor coach, round trip on this one. And one of the advantages of motor coach is going by air is you don't have to worry about the hassle at the airport. Got your motor coach with you throughout the tour, so you can leave personal items on there at night. A lot of New England tours, the bus has to leave the group and go back to the shop, be serviced, and come back the next day. So you lose some of that personality you have having your home away from home. On this program that we're going to be doing, we'll be passing through the first introduction to New England foliage will be the Finger Lakes. And they'll be changing at this time of the year. So you'll get your first introduction of fall foliage at the time. We will be staying in the capital of New York and Albany. That's kind of the stepping off point for a lot of groups that want to do New England proper, as we're going to be doing on this one. The next day, our first adventure will be at the Yankee Candle Village. This is the hallmark home of Yankee Candles itself. It's the main featured store, and they have a variety of displays here available for us. There's a restaurant. They have fabulous rolls, coffee, and and they'll have complimentary cider for you while you're there, as this is a fall foliage tour. In addition to that, the variety of items that are available and accessories for the candles is nice to have. And you know, Christmas is just around the corner, so they claim they have the world's best Christmas shop, and it's quite extensive. So you could be thinking about maybe some items you need for Christmas gifts. Who goes to New England without thinking about maple syrup? And we're going to have the opportunity to visit Hidden Springs, which is one of the premier maple syrup programs in the New England area. Get a chance to sample the product. And of course, you can purchase some to bring home. Again, we have our own motor coach, so whatever you buy, we'll get it stuffed under the bus and safely get it back to home base. Another item that we're going to be visiting is the Franconia State Park. Maybe people have heard of it as the Flume Gorge or the Old Man on the Mountain. That's what it used to be, but the Old Man on the Mountain actually fell off in 2003. So it's still a beautiful, spectacular area to go to. And this gives you some idea of the type of colors you're going to see in contrast between the pine, ferns, and deciduous trees, especially the maples that predominate the area. So you get quite, as one passenger told me one time, a patch quilt of colors that you'll see while you're in New England. This was immortalized by Daniel Webster with the Old Man in the Mountain. And we'll do some picture stops. It's about 13 miles long. And the Flume Gorge Visitor Center will be on our list to stop and investigate. Another very popular item in the White Mountains, now we're in New Hampshire, is the Mount Washington Cog Railway. This particular one will be climbing up to the 6,680 foot summit on this train. It's actually steam driven, goes at about a 30% incline. So when we get to the top, you have a spectacular view of not just Vermont, but also New Hampshire and some of the Adirondacks that will be in there. This is also a popular resort with the Mount Washington building here that's similar to like the Mackinac Island, if you've been up to that area. And they do skiing here in the wintertime. So it's, again, beautiful scenery. And again, your patch quilt of colors will be continuing throughout. Well, the unique things about doing a New England fall foliage tour, unlike in our Midwest, is that the altitude from 6,000 feet down, the foliage is changing at different times of the year in the fall. So you get to see some color, a lot more chance of that than you do in the Midwest. The top rail adventure in New England is the Cafe Lafayette dinner train. An experience of gourmet dining. You order off the menu. Everybody, professional staff, are serving you in the golden age of the rail when this was the way to travel. And please leave room for dessert. They give you several choices to choose from. And by the way, there's no calories in that either. I will also be going to Kennebunkport, famous for a lot of the captain's mansions that were here, including the Bush's summer home. So we're exploring some of these. We'll have a step-on guide with us. No tour is complete without the lighthouses. That's an integral part of the coastal system in New England. And we'll have a chance on what they call the Lighthouse Lovers Cruise to actually get up close and personal with several of these lighthouses, learn about how they operate and why they're so important to the economy and the operations. And of course, Peggy's Cove, that will be one of the picture stops to get spectacular scenery. And what trip would be not complete without the opportunity to enjoy a lobster dinner fresh off the boat that day that is available for us to enjoy. And if you haven't had lobster before, your tour director will be showing you how to eat it. If you don't like lobster, we have a hamburger for you. Just kidding. We have steaks and other items available if you can't have seafood. And then on into Boston. As I said, this is a diversified New England tour for the first time traveler or for the repeat visitor to New England. And this time of year, as you can see from the colors, again, great fall foliage going to be available. We'll have time while we're here with a step-on guided tour of the central part of Boston, Quincy Market, Fennel Hall, the original seating of the first markets back when the Tea Party was taking place in Boston. So we'll have a chance to do that. We'll do a walking tour to the Old North Church, and of course, Paul Revere's Ride and the Freedom Trail. In addition, there's several other points of interest, including the Old Ironsides, USS Constitution, the oldest still naval registered vessel in the United States. And then while we're talking about boats, this is now the 400th anniversary year for the Mayflower, which sailed in 1620 to Plymouth Rock in the Cape Cod, Boston area. And this year they're celebrating with a variety of activities. Pictures. There'll be docents on duty to tell you about what was life going on the trip. Hyannisport is famous for Cape Cod, and it's known for the home of the Kennedy family and the Kennedy compound, which is located here in the Cape Cod area in Hyannisport. And we'll have a chance to visit JFK's museum, President Kennedy, and learn about their St. Xavier Church, where they all went for their mass, and the background of the Kennedy family and how they still infiltrate the area with their businesses and all that they have. On our tri-state travel coaches, we will be also doing the Kings Highway, an opportunity to stop on this with our tour guide and actually take your shoes, socks off, and if you'd like, walk on the water, feel the fresh breeze, and explore the sand beaches while we're there. And no trip will be complete to New England without talking about cranberries. It's still an integral part of their agriculture in that area. Cranberries were one of the first that the Pilgrims worked with when they came to this country. We'll learn about their bogs, how they harvest, and the actual farming of the cranberries. And you'll have a chance for an opportunity to buy some at the visitor center, some cranberry jam preserves to take with us on the trip back. From there, we start meandering our way back through Rhode Island and New England as we head back west after our experience in New England. Fall foliage colors route going through Pennsylvania. So we will have on this trip, the last major stop will be at the Fair Oaks Farms Dairy. This is the largest dairy in Indiana, has over 37,000 cows, produces over 950,000 gallons of milk today. And it's done either on carousels or actual robotic milkers that milk the cows. So an opportunity to visit one of the largest mega farms in the United States. And of course, chance to try their products. And you get an ice cream cone to enjoy while we're there. And you can pick up some cheeses and all to bring back with you. So this is our perfect tour of New England that we're offering. Again, for the first time traveler or for the repeat visitor, this is a New England that satisfies everybody's taste. The tour includes 17 meals, of course, deluxe motor coach transportation, full-time tour director, Yankee Candle visit, Mount Washington, Portland guided tour, the Lighthouse Lovers Cruise, Portland Headlight, Boston City tour, Mayflower birthday, Hyannisport, Fair Oaks Farm, and a variety of other items, too many to mention at this time in the time frame we have to enjoy this New England fall foliage adventure. Well, we thank you, and I'm open for questions if anybody has any.
Well, I'm going to, Jack, I know did a great job of highlighting the tour. Thank you, Jack. A couple things. We can either send you out information if you don't have access. Well, you would have access if you're on this call, but our pricing right now, it starts double at $32.55 with the 2 different dates. If you want more specific information, you can go on our website at www.tristatetravel.com. It would be on the +60 website as well. You can get more detail of a detailed itinerary on our website, or we can send you that in the mail. Let's see, it looks like we do have a couple questions here. I'll go into the chat. Does this actually stop in Canada? Oh, I gotta go back. And the question would be, no, this tour does not go into Canada. And you do not need a passport to go on this tour. Hopefully that was from Kathleen. Any other questions before we start with Mark Miller's presentation? No? Okay. Well, Mark, I will let you start. Mark will be again presenting the Chattanooga's Hidden Gems of the South. Again, that'll be departing September 19th through the 24th. So Mark, if without further ado, you can go ahead and start your presentation.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, this is a kind of a loaded package going down to that little corner of Tennessee called Chattanooga that is actually a very booming, almost metropolis at this point. It's being referred to now as the Silicon Valley of the South, with a bunch of the tech companies and stuff that are now locating and putting offices into the Chattanooga area. But anyway, this trip will start off once you get in from after your first overnight coming into Chattanooga. You'll be staying right downtown at a hotel that's only 2 years old. It's called the Holiday Inn Chattanooga at Hamilton Place. Like I said, just right downtown, a few blocks from some of the highlights that you'll be attending as well. The aquarium, which we'll get into here in a little while, as I kind of make my way through this itinerary. But Chattanooga kind of sits right towards the southern part of the Appalachian Mountain Range. And anyway, once you get to Chattanooga, that first night, you'll check into your hotel where you'll be for the next 3 days, or 4 days and 3 nights. You'll also actually have a local guide who will be with you as well for for most of this tour. And it's actually a lady by the name of J.D. Harper, and she's actually a local author that's written several books about Chattanooga and the South. So she's a very interesting lady that'll be with you, giving you lots of good insight about the Civil War history with Lookout Mountain and all that stuff as you go to and fro a lot of these different attractions. But anyway, after you get into your hotel, your first evening's kind of built around your own private dinner show at it's a show that's been created. It's strictly a group only event in one of the private rooms of one of the very popular local restaurants there, called Puckett's Grocery. Puckett's Grocery it's a grocery store, but it's kind of like a Cracker Barrel on steroids, if you want to call it that. And there's only a handful of them scattered around Tennessee and the southern region. But anyway, they have a private room there, and there's a band called the Northwoods Revival Band that gives you anything from bluegrass to a lot of good Americana type music to country. And they also there's a storyteller that goes along with that gives you just little interesting bits of history, music history from not only the Chattanooga area, but the Appalachian region. So anyway, that'll be your first, 2.5 hours or so that first evening for a dinner show. Once you do that, and of course, it'll be a Southern style buffet that lots of good Southern food and options for you to pick from that way. After the next day, we're going to take off and do and you're going to get a lot of historical information. Most people think of Chattanooga and they think the aquarium and Lookout Mountain, the Civil War history, and you're going to be getting a lot of that good information during the course of your days in Chattanooga. But the first stop you're going to make on your second day, which will be September 21st there in Chattanooga, is it's a one-way ride up to Lookout Mountain. And the only way you can pretty much get there is on the incline railway, which is it's almost a 73% grade incline on the incline railway all the way to the top of Lookout Mountain. Now, Lookout Mountain has several attractions there, so of course you're going to get to see and be part of all of those during the course of the day being there. After you've had your time to explore, once you get to the top of the incline railway, up the top of Lookout Mountain, you'll then make your way over to a short little distance over to Rock City Gardens. And Rock City Gardens is there's just beautiful gardens and trails, and it's the area where you can see 7 states. It's the highest point in the southern Tennessee area there at Point Lookout. It's a 7-state region where you can actually see atop Lookout Mountain and Rock City Gardens there. Rock City Gardens, and just a little tidbit of information, fun bit of history, is actually where the first miniature golf course was ever started in the United States. So anyway, it's who'd ever thought on top of a mountain. But anyway, after you've had time, you've done the incline railway and Rock City Gardens, you're going to have lunch at the restaurant called the Big Rock Grill up on top of Rock City and Lookout Mountain there. It'll be a good sized lunch. It's fried chicken lunch with several different sides. And for dessert of all things, you're going to get a Little Debbie cake. I'm assuming everybody's familiar with Little Debbie cakes. And your Little Debbie cakes you'll have for dessert is because Little Debbie, which is still alive, she started, and Little Debbie's were started there in Chattanooga, actually just outside of Chattanooga, but pretty much known as the Chattanooga area there. So anyway, once we've had lunch, we're going to make our way over to Ruby Falls. And Ruby Falls, this is a cavern with a waterfall that was found by mistake by a gentleman who was looking for another cave system and happened to stumble upon what is now known as Ruby Falls. And to get down into Ruby Falls to where you could be at the bottom of this cave or cavern where this 150-foot waterfall flows down into it, you take it. It's a 26-story elevator elevator that takes you down 26 stories into Ruby Falls. Beautiful hidden gem, one of the prettiest hidden gems in the United States, and they say one of the top like 8 or 10 natural wonders of the United States. So just a beautiful facility. And like I said, it takes you some time to do that. Once you get on the elevator and get down there, and then have time and walk around through the caverns and all that. Anyway, from there, you will be going to we'll be departing the Lookout Mountain and Rock City Gardens area and headed over to the Tennessee River, where you're going to have dinner on a riverboat cruise, the Southern Belle Riverboat. Have a nice Southern dinner there as well, that goes along the Tennessee River and downtown. Starts there in downtown Chattanooga, kind of makes it's about a 6 or 7 mile circle that makes. During the course of the evening, usually there's some kind of background music or easy listening entertainment on board. And once you're done, you will have the opportunity to basically mill around the different levels of the boat and just take in the beautiful sights of the Tennessee River down there in Chattanooga that night. Next day, you are going to, which will be September 22nd, you are going to be going to, all right, get on the right thing here. You'll be doing a full-fledged Chattanooga City tour for several hours, and this will take up several hours, the first 4 or 5 hours of the day. And of course, there'll be a time where you can have lunch on your own downtown, and you're going to see some highlights. You're going to go by where the Chattanooga Choo Choo, which really nobody knew much about until the Glenn Miller Orchestra recorded the song "The Chattanooga Choo Choo" back in the 1940s. Anyway, you're going to see Chattanooga Choo Choo, a couple of very historic parks, North Shore and Coolidge Park in the downtown Chattanooga areas, the Art District, the National Cemetery, as well as see some of the, like the Tennessee Aquarium. You'll hear about that, and you will be going to the Tennessee Aquarium, but not until later that afternoon. But anyway, you're going to see just a whole lot of sites, Tennessee, of Chattanooga, and the Civil War history, the local history, the boom that Chattanooga is kind of going through right now. A lot of that good information is what people like to hear and learn about when they travel and vacation into different areas. So, but before, right after we do the tour, you're going to be going to what's called the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. And this is, they actually have 6 miles on a Civil War train track, and it's still used today as a public railway. But anyway, not only is it they have several train cars on site that have been restored that you can wander through. You will be getting, like I said, a guided tour of that facility. Then you'll have time to explore and mill around on your own. Wonderful little hidden gem of the Chattanooga area. A lot of people don't know it's there. You have an hour and a half or 2 hours there. They take you through the workshop where you can actually see them restoring some of the train cars and Pullman cars and different things that they may be working on. And they're brought these things from all over the United States and North America to restore and refurbish for not only businesses but individuals. You get to see some of that going on as well. After that, then yes, you'll be going to the Tennessee State Aquarium, the big aquarium right downtown, the largest aquarium in the southern region of the United States. And you will have 2.5 to 3 hours to explore the Tennessee Aquarium. Of course, you'll you'll be greeted and you will be given all the highlights of areas that you want to see at that aquarium. You know, all the different freshwater exhibits. They have butterfly gardens, coral reef exhibits, lots of different areas. It's a very large aquarium. So like I said, it's pretty much the aquarium of the South for the most part. But anyway, and from that, you will be then going to one of the more famous, it's called Bay's Restaurant, which is kind of one of those little hidden restaurant gems of not only Chattanooga, but the South as well, where you'll also be having another good Southern dinner there that evening with several options to pick from with entrees and sides and all that. But anyway, and from that, by the time that's over, at 7:30 rate, you'll be headed back to your hotel before you load up the next morning to start making your way back towards Illinois.
I guess I better unmute myself before I talk, but just to go over a few of the highlights of the trip, we will also be going via, like he said, this will be a motor coach tour as well. The first night we will be stopping in Indianapolis. One of the highlights will be stopping at the Beef and Boards Dinner Theater before we do get to the Chattanooga region on the second day. And then on the way home, we will be stopping in Louisville, overnighting. You'll get an opportunity to go to the Louisville Slugger Museum, as well as taking in the Derby Dinner Theater Playhouse. And then the final day we'll be traveling home. Breakfast will be included. But this full itinerary can be found on our website at www.tristatetravel.com. But just to go over a few of the highlights, numerous meals included, deluxe motor coach transportation, the Beef and Boards Dinner Theater. Again, like Mark had mentioned, we'll be doing a full narrated tour of Chattanooga. We'll be doing the Chattanooga Choo Choo, the North Shore and Coolidge Park, Bluffview Art District, National Cemetery, St. Elmo. We'll be touching on as he had mentioned, the Tennessee Valley Railroad, Lookout Mountain, and the River City Dinner Show as well. Wonderful tour. This is a new tour that we added in 2020, but due to COVID, we had to push it to 2021. The double price starts at $18.85 per person. But again, you can check this out either on our website. If you want to call in with any questions, you can call our 1-800 number, which is 1-800-779-4869, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 p.m. Does anybody have any questions at this time for us or Mark about this wonderful package? Nothing at all. You can put, go ahead.
Andrew, I've had a couple of questions this last week. Can you talk a little bit about what the temperature range typically is that time of year going down to visit Chattanooga?
You will can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, typically you're going to be somewhere upper 70s to low 80s, possibly mid 80s that time of year in Chattanooga. Being as it's that far south, it's still a little warmer than it is in other places going to late September, but typically fairly mild still.
Were there any other questions, John, that anybody else had about the tour? We do have quite a few people that are signed up for this tour, but this is one that is new to us this year that Mark put together for us. It's a wonderful tour. You get to see a lot in 6 days, so this will be definitely a nice addition for the fall. We will be going next. I don't know if she's on yet, but
I am.
Oh, Susan, wonderful. Susan Hatcher will be discussing our final tour, which is the Many Faces of Louisiana from October 17th to the 24th. So Susan, if you want to go ahead and start your presentation, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, Mark.
Okay. A little over a year ago, I was down in the Louisiana area, and because I had a group that was going to be down there doing New Orleans, which is normally when people think of with Louisiana. And I ran into somebody who started talking about the rest of the state. And Louisiana is extremely unusual. It is the only state in the Union that really has a really French background. So much so that up until 1921, French was spoken in the schools, and they passed a law that said English had to be spoken. So anyway, they got me interested in all the different things about Louisiana, and we put together this tour called The Many Faces of Louisiana. You're going to start off the first night, you're going to come part way into Missouri and overnight there. And then the next day, you're coming into Alexandria, Louisiana. And Alexandria is where the Bentley Hotel is. It's a very historic hotel. Mr. Bentley built it. He was an lumber baron and a little on the rough side, and tried to stay at what was then the main hotel in Alexandria, and they wouldn't let him. They wouldn't take his reservation, so he built his own hotel. It is a very historic hotel because just prior to World War II, when we were starting to prepare for it, and you'll learn more about Louisiana maneuvers, it was where Eisenhower and Patton and some of the other generals were here, and this is where they pretty much designed the Louisiana maneuvers. Louisiana actually had the largest concentration of American troops that have ever been in this country. And you'll learn a little bit about this. The hotel has a museum area, but they're also going to have someone come in to talk to you during your welcome reception here, before we continue over to Southern Creations, where we're going to have dinner that night. And Southern Creations has a DJ that comes in, and his hobby is collecting music from all over Louisiana. And everything from Cajun music to Zydeco to jazz to Creole. He's going to give complete history of Louisiana music and how it's affected the entire country with our music there. The next day, we go to Kent Plantation. This is the oldest plantation still existing in Louisiana. It was started in the 1700s with a land grant back from the King of France. That's before the very French area. And it was a working plantation. Back then, it was not a social plantation as we oftentimes think of plantations being. This was a working plantation. And you'll learn what the original plantations were like here in Louisiana. They weren't cotton plantations, they were sugarcane plantations, because at that time, during the 1700s, sugar was such a prized commodity in Europe that you did not keep it in the kitchen. You kept it in the safe in the master's bedroom. It was considered like gold. We're then going to continue on to and learn a little bit about slavery. Northrop it's Marksville. I'm trying to think of the name. Marksville, Louisiana, is where Solomon Northrop was freed. He was a African American who lived in Sarasota, New York. Ended up being captured and taken down south and made a slave. And he wrote a book later on, but he was there for 12 years as a slave, and it's been made into a movie. And it's here in Marksville that it was actually, that he was actually freed by the courts here. And you're going to, at lunch, have an impersonator of, oh, I can't think of his name now. My mind just went blank. John P. Waddle was the lawyer who represented Northrop, and Charles Riddle has actually written a book on it, and he is going to be there. He's going to talk about this story, and then you'll have a chance to go to the courthouse and to see the paperwork where he was actually freed. And then we're going to go on for a little more fun. One of the things I found in Louisiana that I'd never heard of before, and that was egg knocking. Some of you may have heard of it, but I know I hadn't. They actually have contests there every year, and these are international contests. People come from all over the world to participate in an egg knocking contest. They also spend thousands of dollars to try and breed chickens that will have the hardest eggshells. What you do in egg knocking is one person holds an egg and the other one taps with it. Whoever egg breaks first loses. And so you need the hardest shelled egg possible. They are hard-boiled eggs though. And we're going to have an egg knocking contest, and the mayor of is going to come and is going to actually lead the egg knocking contest. From there, we continue on down to Baton Rouge. We're going to stay at the L'Auberge Casino. Riverboat casinos were, riverboats period on the Mississippi were big, and all of them had gambling on them. This is a big thing in Louisiana, which is another face of Louisiana. And the hotel is not on the water, but the casino actually floats. It's one of the largest barges that with a casino in the country in that. But at the time, it was required that all casinos on the Mississippi River be able to float. And so it is actually in a pool of water. And even though you won't feel it floating at all, it is actually floating. Oops, we missed a slide here. I'm not much sure what happened, but the next day, that night, and I don't know what happened to the slide because there was one. It's evidently gotten out of place somehow, but you're going to have dinner that night. And again, with another impersonator. One of the most colorful characters of Louisiana was Huey Long. Huey Long was governor there for one term. He was unique insofar as he never graduated from any place. He would get bored and move on to the next. He didn't even graduate from college. He got bored with college and went ahead and got his passed the bar at age 21. He was running for president at the point that he was assassinated. But Huey, you will be touring Baton Rouge that day, and some of the things you will see is the original Capitol building, and then Huey Long decided it wasn't distinctive enough, so he built the tall one that you see there, and he made it 50 feet higher than the one in Nebraska so that he could say that Louisiana had the tallest Capitol in the country. We'll also be stopping at the Capitol Museum and learn about the music again, and what they call on Sundays, they had gatherings and they called them fadodos, or fadodo, I gotta pronounce that right, fadodos. And this is where they actually would come together on a Sunday and just have fun with music and dancing. And we're going to learn about that. And we're going to learn about the people that make up Louisiana. Louisiana is made up of Creoles, and a Creole is someone who was, as the people in Louisiana put it, that lived in Louisiana before they were sold to the United States. They not talk about the Louisiana Purchase there. They say that's when they were sold by the French king. And so you have Spanish that are Creole, you have French backgrounds that are Creole, you have Native Americans, because the Spanish and the French were very much, especially the French, of incorporating the people that were living there within their culture also. It also has a number of Cajun people. The Cajuns are people who were actually moved forcibly by the British from what was then Acadia, it's now Nova Scotia, and they were brought down to Louisiana and kind of dumped there. And the Acadians became known as Cajuns. And so you'll learn about the Cajun culture also. You'll also learn about all the industry. The sugarcane industry is one of the biggest industries in Louisiana. And you'll also learn about the oil industry, which is large there, and also the shrimping industry. And you'll also learn what they have done to contribute to the changing of this country. And as they went from slavery into up into the 1960s. And of course, you can't be in Baton Rouge without learning about LSU and actually having a chance possibly to see the LSU Tiger. With a little luck, and this is going to be Mother Nature that dictates this, the pelicans stop in Baton Rouge en route on their migration pattern. And at the time you are there, around that time, and again, Mother Nature dictates it more so than anything else, there are thousands of pelicans that come down to the lakes there en route south. Lunch that day is going to be at the Rural Life Museum. And you're going to have lunch, and you're also going to have the music of the from the rural areas of Louisiana. And so we have entertainment that afternoon also. From there, we go on to the Atchafalaya Basin. This is an area, it's one of the largest river swamp areas in the country. The bridge at one time was the largest bridge. It's 18 miles long that goes across the basin. We're going to cross that bridge, and we're going to come to McGee's Landing, where you will board a boat and you will go through this beautiful area of our country and see what it's like in a swamp. And you'll see islands in the swamp. You'll see wildlife in the swamp. And I drove motor coach for 40 years. And I can honestly say of all the river cruises I took in that 40 years time, as I drove people around the country, this has got to be the most scenic river cruise I have taken anywhere in the country. Our guide continues then, and we come on down. And as I mentioned, the Acadians were transported from what was then Acadia, it's now Nova Scotia, down to Louisiana. And Longfellow wrote a poem. And while the poem itself is based on a fictional couple, it is the story of this tragedy of these people being relocated from Nova Scotia to New Orleans. And it's called, the poem is Evangeline, and they actually have an oak that was immortalized because it was under this oak that the two lovers who were married on the day that this deportation took place, and she followed him, and they met under the Evangeline oak. And you'll learn more about that story also. And then we're going to the only Tabasco factory in the country. It is down here on Avery Island that Tabasco is made. And you'll learn about the history of the Tabasco, and you learn about the island, and then continue on from there to what we think of when we think of Southern plantations. We are going to be staying at Hummus Plantation. You'll have a chance to tour the house and learn about the social plantations. This is totally different from the working plantation that you saw earlier up near Alexandria. We are going to stay here in these, they've got buildings in that, there's an inn here on the property in the gardens, and you're going to actually stay here on the plantation. You're going to have time that you can walk through the gardens if you want to, or for those who have difficulty walking, they do have carts, and you can call for a cart to drive you through the gardens. Dinner that evening is going to be at your leisure. And you can come down, and there will be a menu that you can choose what you're wanting to eat that evening. But it's a very, very nice, elegant dinner. And so this is a day to experience what the social plantations were like. And then we're going to go to a section of Louisiana that was known as no man's land. No man's land, when the King of France sold the Louisiana Purchase to the United States, there was a controversy between the French king and the Spanish king over a certain area that Spain claimed was theirs, and the French king said no, he was selling it to the United States. And this was known as no man's land. No man's land is what they call the upland area of Louisiana, and it is more cattle country. It is totally different from the rest of Louisiana. As you've traveled around Louisiana, you will have seen the Louisiana maneuvers where you saw where the Louisiana was a vital part of the going into World War II, and then even afterwards in with other wars and that, you'll have seen original plantations and what they started out being. You'll have seen the social plantations. Now you're going to see cattle country, and our guide's going to meet us, and we're going to go. And in this upland area, it was necessary at the time to build houses over all the graves. And so when someone was buried that afternoon, they would build a house over the grave. And you'll learn why and what the reasons for all this was. And you'll also visit Fort Hope, learn a little more about the Louisiana maneuvers, but also you'll learn about how during Vietnam War, they had Vietnamese villages built here at the fort for the soldiers to train at. During Desert Storm, they actually made it into desert, and so that they knew what the villages there would look like as they were going into it. And so you'll learn more about this area of the country. And dinner that night is going to be a typical Louisiana no man's land dinner at barbecues. You're going to have a barbecue because that is the food of the no man's land area, which was also an area because of the fact that nobody really knew who ruled it. Nobody ruled it. And so it was the land of outlaws also. And then we're going to go to Natchitoches. Natchitoches is, again, one of the original areas. Land grants were given to the plantation owners. And you're going to learn about this area of the of Louisiana. And this is kind of a cross between the Kent plantation, which was strictly a working plantation, and Hope plantation, which is strictly a social plantation. These in this area were kind of a combination of both. If any of you saw the movie Steel Magnolias, it was filmed here along with a lot of other movies, and it is a beautiful area that you're going to visit, and you will be visiting Melrose Plantation. Again, a totally different plantation. This plantation was actually given to a former slave who was given a land grant, who built Melrose Plantation. It was at the point that his son died. It was worth at that time, which was a lot of money, over $100,000. It ended up getting lost to debt and gambling, and it was bought by someone who made it into an artist colony, and it still has a lot of that. And it has had a famous artist, Clementine Hunter, was a cook there, who was given some of the some art supplies, and she began painting, and her works are now all over the world, including in the Louvre in France. And you'll hear also about how this happened in this area. And then you're back, leaving and heading up back into Missouri after seeing many of the different faces of Louisiana and the unique culture that is found only in Louisiana. And like I said, if it had not been for the law passed in 1921, there are many in Louisiana that say that they would have still been speaking French in Louisiana. So it's one of the most unique states of the Union. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Susan. That was a great presentation. If you haven't noticed, she's very passionate about this tour, and it is a wonderful tour. You get to see and do a lot. A lot is included. It's a wonderful 8-day tour. Just to touch on a few of the other portions of the trip. On day one, you'll be traveling down. We'll be staying in Sikeston, Missouri, and we'll be having dinner at Lambert's Cafe, which is home of the Throne Rolls, as we start into the Louisiana area on day 2 through day 7. The evening of day 7, we'll be checking into our hotel in Jonesboro, Arkansas. You'll have dinner on your own en route, and then breakfast that final day on day 8. And then we'll be heading home, arriving later in the evening on day 8, October 24th. She did a wonderful job covering all the highlights. Just to give you, you can check this full itinerary out again at our website at www.tristatetravel.com, or the +60 page, or you can call us at our toll-free number at 1-800-779-4869. The double price for this great tour, this is the first time we're offering this tour, it's very unique, is $2,389. But before we end our presentation today, are there any questions at all? Does anybody have any questions? Anybody that's still on the call? No? Okay. Well, this is the end of our first virtual online open house. We will be adding more as the year goes on, as we will be promoting other tours throughout the end of the summer, fall, and into the winter, and also into 2022. Please, if you do have any questions, reach out to us. We're here to help. Again, thank you to all of our presenters, Jack Weidman from Tri-State Travel about our New England package, Mark Miller from Carry On Tours about our Chattanooga tour, and Susan Hatcher of our Many Faces of Louisiana. Very much appreciated. One thing I am going to throw out there before I do get off this call, we are going to offer a $50 discount to any of the +60 members that do sign up for any of these tours by July 16th. I picked that date just because the first our trip with Mark through Chattanooga's Hidden Gems departs on September 19th. So we will be offering a $50 discount for any of these tours if our listeners or any +60 members do call and sign up by July 16th of this year for any of those trips. So if we have no more questions, I do thank everybody for joining us this evening. And please be on the lookout for any of our constant contact updates with any more of our presentations that we'll be adding on into the future. I thank you very much, and you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you.